Hi, it's David Duchovny, and I wanted to tell you about my new novel, Truly Like Lightning. Um, it's unlike anything I've written before. I wound up writing, I think, a Western, like an epic Western, and I never thought that I would do that. It's the story of a former Hollywood stuntman who converts to Mormonism in order to gain an inheritance, a huge tract of land out by Joshua Tree in California, outside of San Bernardino, that his grandmother left him, with the stipulation that he had to convert. He converts, but he converts deeply. He's a true believer. He goes out there with three wives and ends up having 10 children, some of them adopted from the wives' previous marriages, but five or six of them his own. And he gets embroiled in kind of a land grab. Um, his name is Bronson Powers, and a woman who works at Praetorian Capital in Santa Monica, Maya Abadessa, stumbles upon his land and thinks that she can make billions, really, by developing it. But first she has to get it. And she comes up with this kind of extra legal plan to take some of the kids away, because the state of California might think that the Powers family was neglecting their children because they weren't sending them to school and they weren't giving them accredited courses. So she sets up a test where I'm going to take, she says, I'm going to take three kids from your clan, put them in public high school in Rancho Cucamonga, and at the end of the year, we're going to do a test and see who's doing better. And if your kids are doing better, like you say, you're raising them in this beautiful place, Agata de Vida, he calls it, then you win. And we'll back off. We won't try to take your land. But if you lose, you'll have to sell us some of that land. And it's miles and miles of land. They can, Abadessa and Praetorian Capital could make casinos. They could make housing developments. They could make warehouses. They could drill. They could look at minerals. It's $1 billion deal. So that's how it all starts. And where it goes from there is kind of comedy, as the kids who have never really seen people before try to make it in the high school at Rancho Cucamonga. And it spins off into tragedy because of what happens there and what Bronson is then forced or decides to do in reaction to the events of the three children being at Rancho Cucamonga. And it becomes kind of an epic tragedy, almost like a Greek or a biblical tragedy. So I feel that it has a lot of different vectors going on inside. It has a lot of thriller aspects, comedic aspects in the center of the book when the kids are fish out of water in Rancho Cucamonga, and then kind of into a biblical, epic Greek tragedy at the end, all framed in a Western. In Joshua Tree, in America, California. So I thought I might read a few minutes of it. This is the part where Maya has come back to Agata de Vida, where Bronson and his wives and children live, and she's come to start the deal happening. She's going to take three kids. But she has to choose them. And Bronson acquiesces at this point. Says basically, screw it. We'll do the deal because we're going to win. So this is the point at which Bronson says, you choose. You make the choice. Choose the three kids. Choose the 3 out of the 10 kids that are going to go to Rancho Cucamonga. Maya looked at the kids and at the mothers and at Bronson. A couple of the very young ones were crying as it dawned on the children what might be happening. Maya felt like shit, but this was business. She had to be cold-blooded, like some sort of desert lizard. You okay, ma'am? The ranger called from a safe distance. Yes, thanks, Maya called out and turned her attention back to the group of kids lined up as in front of a firing squad. Well, she bought time, thinking Janet Bergram and she had decided on a couple older kids, high schoolers, and one younger kid, middle school perhaps, as the best test group. And Mary, the mother, had just said that the older kids were probably going to college soon, so that seemed the way to go. Those kids would be leaving home soon anyway, no big deal. Time to grow up and leave the nest. That's the way it goes. She spotted the oldest-looking boy. Him, she pointed. What's your name? How old are you? Deuce, the young man said. Deuce is the smartest of us all, Bronson said. He'll end up teaching the teachers. He's 16, 17, 18, thereabouts. We don't really keep track of ages like that. Okay, Deuce. Maya was relieved. He'll be a junior in high school then. She could see Deuce was not happy, or at least wanted to let his father know he was not happy. Maybe didn't want to betray his dad. Maybe the kid was scared. Sure, it's scary to leave home for the first time. He'll be fine. But Maya definitely thought she saw some relief in Mary's eyes. She started to think of the woman as a potential secret ally. So I guess you want to pick a younger one now, too, Bronson sneered. Okay, 1 down, 2 to go, Maya said. Mary spoke up. Deuce has a twin, Pearl. She pointed to the pretty girl on the horse. We don't separate the twins. And a missionary needs a companion, 2 by 2. That's the way. Pearl will go too. Mary looked at Bronson when she had said this, not at Maya, not over at the girl Pearl, seeming to dare him to contradict her. He held her eyes for a second, a look of incredulity on his face, then shock and embarrassment, before landing on the resigned but comprehending mask of a man who had betrayed and been betrayed in turn. He looked down, then he glanced up at the sky, as if for backup. Only then did Mary train her eyes on Pearl, on the horse. Something passed between them that Maya saw but did not understand, and knew that she could not ever understand, perhaps until she became a parent herself. The love, protection, apology, and guidance Mary was sending the girl's way was returned in equal measure with disappointment, competition, and rage coming back at the mother from the girl. Pearl then looked over at Bronson, but Bronson would not look down from accusing the sky of some unnamed crime. Fuck all of you, Pearl screamed. She kicked at the horse she was astride. The animal took off in a gallop, skidding up an angry spray of sand, jumped the fence, and soon vanished into the distance. Pearl, Mary called after her. Leave her be, Bronson said with a touch of venom. She'll be back. She got nowhere to go. Then Bronson turned back to Maya. I think it's going well so far, don't you? One more, right? A young one you wanted. You have 2 17-year-olds. You want like a 10-year-old? Ephraim? 3 for the price of 1? You want another girl? How about your girl, Mother Mary? Would that satisfy you? How about Beautiful? Beautiful? 2 kids, Ephraim and Beautiful, stepped forward. Mary seemed to try to rein in any reaction, but she was wringing her hands so hard that Maya could see little specks of blood start to seep from her knuckles. Maya looked at the kids. Her vision was blurry. She realized she was crying. She wiped her eyes to clear them, only to rub sand from her fingertips and tear up some more. Bronson handed her a kerchief. The musk of it repulsed her. When she could see again, Maya thought she might throw up. Maybe she should have, but she hadn't anticipated a scene like this. She couldn't think. All she could see was the fucking kid with that fucking bow and arrow, the kid that had shot her before. Hiram. It was the only name she was sure of among all the nutty Mormon and made-up hippie names. Hiram, she said. Now everything got fast. Maya heard the horse behind her make a weird, high-pitched noise and rear up. She felt the air switch at her back. She watched Hiram, impossibly fast, like watching a movie with frames missing, string an arrow on his bow and take a knee, aiming it at Maya's heart. She heard Mary yell, Hiram, no, as mothers have done throughout eternity when their sons are about to do something violent and stupid. Maya couldn't turn, but heard the ranger behind her in the distance yell and start running toward them, pulling out his gun, bringing it up to aim at the boy, she assumed. She saw that in her mind's eye. She knew it must be happening. Maya felt herself entering a kind of special time, like a sacred time. She felt both present and absent from her body and mind, somewhere between the here and now and a premonition of things to come. Now everything got slow. Maya saw the boy's fingers gently release, like setting free a bird. She watched the arrow fly at her. She felt she could see it from 360 degrees. Even though time slowed, she had no time to move. The aim was true. She was dead. She knew she was going to die right now. That the boy had tried to kill her before, and how he was going to finish the job. And now he was going to finish the job. She kept her eyes open and waited for the sting of the arrow through her flesh to her heart, hoped it would be quick and not too painful, hoped it wouldn't get in her face. Did she deserve it? She was simply trying to make money, make a life. Was that a sin? The sin? Was this justice for the pain caused by splitting up this odd family? She thought briefly but completely of the things she would not do in life. Children, see Greece, see Hamilton. She should have had more ice cream. Her equinox-toned ass was about to be a useless accessory on a corpse, a thing of the past, worm food. She thought of her own father, hoped to see him again, if there was an afterlife. She keyed on the sound of the shaft as it flew nearer to her, ripping the air, and then, curiously, impossibly it seemed, missed her, continued past, and made a sticking sound a few feet behind her left ear. She keyed on the sound of the shaft as it flew nearer to her, ripping the air, and then, curiously, impossibly it seemed, missed her, continued past, and made a sticking sound a few feet behind her left ear. It was only then that she heard the rattle. She turned, and there in the dirt, in front of the spooked horse still rearing and stomping its hooves, stuck in the ground, wriggling, bleeding, and dying, was a big, angry rattlesnake inches from her leg. The snake stopped writhing and died, pinned by the arrow through its open, attacking mouth, like a science room specimen, through its small brain to the earth. Maya turned from the snake back to look at the boy. Hiram was still on one knee, left arm extended in a fist clutching the bow, right fingers in a cocky freeze frame, elbow high by his ear where he had released the bowstring. He had a smile on his face and a full quiver, less one, so sure of his first shot that he hadn't even reloaded. All right, well, I hope you get it. I hope you read it. And I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you soon. Thanks.